Hi Annie, it's Steve Luck here. Thanks very much for asking me to answer some questions for the Semibreve newsletter. So I'm just going to go through the questions one at a time and do my best to answer them, and then maybe I'll get time to at the end to play a little piece for you. Number one, the question number one says, could you tell us about yourself and your musical history? Yes, so I'm a composer and pianist, born and brought up in Newcastle, and I'm still here. I'm still in my studio, which is in the Ousburn, and I'm in a fabulous building called 36 Lime Street. So I've got a studio in there, and I've been here for about 8 years now. I have a piano teaching practice that I operate from here, and then I also have some composing work. So I work with some music libraries, and in the past I've written music for films and worked with TV production companies and various other things. And more recently I've been focusing on contemporary classical composition, mostly solo piano pieces for now, although not exclusively so. And releasing those, kind of self-releasing those as an independent artist. I had a traditional kind of musical upbringing, did all the piano grades up to grade 8, and then I did a music degree after that, and then I've been self-employed ever since that degree finished, which was actually over 30 years ago now. It was in 1990 when I completed my studies, which doesn't seem very long ago at all, but I think that's just a feature of being slightly elderly. So the next question says, what was your first musical memory? The thing I thought about when I read that was my uncle played. It was the first day that we were getting a piano brought to the house, and it was coming from the local shop that was just around the corner. Somebody had it in an upstairs flat, and my uncles at the time had a couple of larger vans, and in the days before there was like an official man with a van type business. They were men with vans, and so they would do little house removals or kind of large objects and take them from one place to another. Anyway, they came to sort out the piano for me. It wasn't worth kind of putting it in the van because the piano was in the shop that was just around the corner on the street. So they put it on a trolley, and we all, as a gang of us, all kind of pushed it around the street. This is when I was probably about 6 or 7, something like that. We all they pushed it around the street, and my Uncle Brian could play the piano, and he stood on the trolley with the piano and played a few tunes as we were moving it around up the street. So that was my first kind of musical memory. Number 3, it says, what have been the biggest challenges of the COVID lockdown? How has it changed the way that you work? So the biggest challenges, I think, are that it's not having contact, not having live gigs to perform at, not having audiences to react with and against, and to bounce off and to kind of learn from and perform better with. That's been a real struggle. Before that, I was doing a variety of different gigs in this building. We had at least 3 times a year we would have open studio events where members of the public would come in and look around the building. Inside the building, there's something like 36 different artist studios. Sorry, about 42 different artist studios. And there are, the public would come in and look around all the artist studios, and we'd get a regular. I do half-hourly piano recitals and play, throughout the course of the weekend, and play to hundreds of people over the course of the weekend. So we're missing all of that. I used to do gigs in a variety of different places. I've been running a regular concert series called Atmospherica, some of which were done in here, some of which were done at the Civic Theatre in Gosforth, and some of which were played in the Victoria Tunnel, underground here in the Ousburn, which is a fabulous experience. And just all of that stuff having gone has been really difficult. So face-to-face teaching's moved online, which has its own challenges and in some regards advantages, I think, as well. But overall, it's not as good as having people in face-to-face for kind of communicating various things to do with music teaching. So my working life has sort of carried on in the sense of I've been coming into work and I've had a bit of time to compose some things and make a plan for writing some pieces and putting an album together and stuff like that. So there's been a kind of freedom about it, but there's also, I think I have kind of suffered with this background level of anxiety that's kind of been going on, that's meant that maybe I haven't been as focused or as creative as I might have thought that I could have been during this time. I think there was definitely some of that going on, particularly in the early stages of the COVID lockdown. Things are changing now. It feels like there's a kind of, the spring is in the air and there's something more positive going on. So that's all good. I'm going to move on to question 4. It says, what are you most proud of? I suppose I'm probably most proud of my daughter and the amazing stuff that she gets into. She's a fabulous equestrian rider and is working really hard at doing that. Has just completed an apprenticeship in equestrian stuff and has been working for a 3-day event. And she's just turned into a wonderful young adult. So yes, I suppose I'm proudest of that. How do you describe your compositional style? I think it's fairly simple. So my background was did the classical kind of training, but was always interested in jazz and blues, and was always interested in pop and rock music. And since graduating, most of the classical stuff took a backseat for quite a long time, and I played in bands and played keyboards for lots of bands, and I played in a world music band that I kind of ended up sort of not managing as such, but kind of taking on the roles for finding gigs and publicity and recording stuff and all of that. So I suppose I ran the band to a certain extent, and so yeah, the classical stuff kind of took a backseat. So more recently, I've been started to explore some, I suppose you call it relaxing piano music. It's kind of contemporary classical style. It's quite simple harmonically. It's quite meditative and delicate. It's quite. It always has it's a little bit melancholy, maybe a bit sad, but it also always has a bit of hope. I'm hoping that it has a bit of hope. So yes, I think that's that's probably kind of sums up where I'm at in the kind of pieces that I'm writing, and I'll play one for you in a little while. What does music mean to you? I think it's the thing that sort of, what does music mean to me? When you work with this all the time, it's easy to it's quite a challenging question to answer, because it's such a part of every day that sometimes it's difficult to have a kind of longer view of it, I suppose. But I guess I would say that it means such a lot. It means that there's an opportunity with music to go beyond the everyday, and to kind of to trigger your imagination and to make you think and feel things that aren't tangible, but relate to other feelings and other situations that happen in real life as well. So who or what inspires you? So when I'm composing, I think I'm inspired often by imagery. So I've worked on probably about 70 or so film projects, so film and media projects. So I'm quite used to working with video and working with imagery, and kind of feeling inspired by the imagery. And so that's often a thing that sort of makes me go off in different directions, is just to kind of follow the action of what's happening in a piece of video footage, or kind of an emotion evoked by an image, I think. So I don't know if I'm quite a kind of visual person in that sense. One of my pieces is called Tesoro, and I remember distinctly kind of coming up with the kind of chord sequence and the mood and the vast majority of the pieces whilst looking at some photographs that my cousin had sent through of their new baby, and it was like they were really beautiful photographs, and obviously kind of meant something with the family connection and stuff, and had a inspirational time, and put the single out, and ended up dedicating it to Ellie, who's the baby in question. which bizarrely, because of COVID, I haven't been able to meet yet. I've never met her before, so hopefully that's going to change soon. What would be your desert island disc? This might change if it was a different day, but I suppose today I'm feeling a lot of solace from the song by Ron Sexsmith. There's a Canadian songwriter called Ron Sexsmith, and the song is called Gold in Them Hills, and it's about how when things feel like they are troubling, that there's something golden, there's a nugget to be learned from these troubled times that we have, and I think he puts it really well in the song. Describe your favourite meal. My favourite meal, it's an actual meal that actually happened, was on Zanzibar, in a little place in Zanzibar called Kiwengwa, and this was probably about 20 or so years ago, we found this, we were there on holiday, and we found this amazing set of beach huts. There was only about 4 beach huts and a very small kind of what's probably now been developed into some kind of commercial hotel, but at the time felt like it was a real out of the way kind of backwater place, with fabulous welcome from the woman who ran the place, and we've been told about it to go and find it, and it was a little bit off the beaten track, and it was a bit mysterious, and we found this amazing place with just fabulous views of this blue sea, and the fishermen would be out on their boats kind of fishing. We could watch most of them all day, and they would come up the beach with their catch from the day and give it to the chef from the hotel, and he would cook it, and we'd have that as a meal. So it was like red snapper and all these kind of amazing things with chips and a bottle of cold beer and stuff, and the sun going down. So that is my favourite meal. There's a hard question next, number 10. What is your definition of success? It's probably something along the lines of mid-table security with no dramas or threat of relegation. Probably maybe a more serious answer might be success is maybe being able to inspire a few people through the kind of musical activities that I do. I think I would judge that as being a success if somebody's learned something from me or gone on to put something into practice through my teaching work, I suppose, more than anything else. What is your favourite drink? It is probably, I would have to say, beer. I always do that thing. I don't know if it's just a dad thing that dads do, but I always have a sip of beer and go, I like beer. So I do that quite often. Particular favourite at the minute is a beer called Tashi Bob, which is made by a local brewery called Northern Alchemy, which is run by a friend of mine, Carl Kennedy, who's an amazing improvising actor and comedian. Check out Northern Alchemy, and Tashi Bob is some really good stuff to go for. Tell us about your current projects. This is number 12. So currently I'm in a cycle of releasing 6 singles. In fact, this week on Friday, the 12th of March, I'm releasing the second single in the cycle. So the second single is called Oscillation, and the plan is to release another 4 more singles and then add some other tracks to it and release an album in September. The album is recorded not on this piano that you see here, but it's on I've got an upright Kawai at home, and we've got a piece of felt that goes down in between the hammers and the strings, and it makes for a really kind of ethereal sound. And so I'm recording all of the album on that, and it's a very gentle, kind of fuzzy sound, and a fuzzy. The mood of the album is that it's kind of about recollections and kind of memories and sort of vague notions of feelings that happened in the past, and that's the kind of musical representation is coming through this very soft and gentle kind of felted sound. So that's the plan for the next sort of few months. What have you got planned for the future? Number 13. Well, what have you got planned for the future? in future, I would be really hopeful that I could re-establish my concert series that I've been putting on and promoting, which involves contemporary classical composers coming to the Northeast and performing their own music. The concert series is called Atmospherica, and I've run it for a couple of years before the lockdown. And during the lockdown, we've done a couple of online things with composers kind of submitting video performances. But I'm really dying to get the concert series back up and running, and get some more amazing intimate experiences for people listening to music performed by the composers in some very special venues. The ones that I mentioned a bit earlier, the Victoria Tunnel's a great one, and I can't rate highly enough the people at the Civic Theatre in Gosforth who have been really supportive with this series and encouraging and helped me to make it work. So yes, I would love to have some more live shows coming in the future. Number 14, what's the best thing about being a musician and composer in the Northeast? I think just being in the Northeast generally is a great thing. So whether you're a musician or not, but don't tell anybody don't tell too many people about it. So one of the things is that Northumberland is just fantastic to get out and about. But in terms of bringing it back to being a musician and composer, I think one of the things that I have experienced is that the Northeast scene is relatively small, and so you do have good friends with people who go on to do lots of interesting other projects, and it's always nice, and it always feels like it's quite a kind of friendly scene, and it feels like it's quite supportive. That the kind of people are in it and are kind of generally looking after each other. So yes, I hope that's an answer to that question. And I hope that's an answer to all of those questions. It's been interesting to have to think through them, and so I'm grateful for the opportunity to spend a little bit of time reflecting on this stuff. I'll play you a piece if you'd like to. If people want to stay tuned for that would be great. This is my new single, which is coming out this Friday. It'll be on Spotify and iTunes and Apple Music and all the usual places. Like I say, I recorded the actual recorded version is done on a felted piano, so you maybe just have to imagine that part, but I'll try and play it as gently as possible. This is a tune called Oscillation. So yeah, thanks very much for listening. If I might be able to just do a little plug as well, I do some peaceful piano lunchtime live streams on my Facebook page. So if you search for it's facebook.com/Steve Luck Music, and every Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday at 1 o'clock, I just do a little 10-minute session of peaceful piano music. So it's stuff like that. And I also feature other peaceful piano artists as part of that as well, and some of the atmospheric composers have been part of that as well. So yeah, do check it out if you can. Thanks very much. It's been lovely to speak to you virtually. It might be nice to meet up in real life when things are a bit better. Thanks very much, and yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Thanks now. Bye.